Um, thank you so much. We always kick off these trainings with a summary of today's lesson. So the lesson question that we're looking to answer is, what is MassSave and how can I participate in energy and efficiency and decarbonization programs? Our objectives for today is to first understand the MassSave program and how it can help municipalities reduce energy and fossil fuel use, and also to identify the stepping stones to building decarbonization and where to go for assistance. So as per usual, I'm gonna launch this introductory poll just to get a sense of to what extent you agree with these statements. So how comfortable are you already with the MassSave program? And do you feel like you understand those initial stepping stones to building decarbonization? So I'll give you all a minute to answer that. I know a few folks just came in, so we're doing this introductory poll. To what extent you agree with these two statements? And if you haven't yet, if you can add your municipality or RPA to your Zoom name, that'd be great. All right, so take 10 more seconds to answer if you haven't yet. All right, I'm gonna close the poll. So in terms of understanding the MassSave program and how to decarbonize, got a lot of agrees and strongly agrees, although about 38% said neutral and at least a few folks said strongly disagree. For the understanding the stepping stones to building decarbonization, again, a lot of neutral and agrees. Some folks disagree, a couple people strongly agree. So thank you so much for taking that. And I will now transition to having our speakers introduce themselves and then can pass off to MassSave.
Thanks, Julia. Jessica Reardon here. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining the training today. I probably met a bunch of you already at orientation, but it's good to have you all on here again. My name, like I said, is Jessica. I'm the supervisor of energy efficiency at Eversource, and I'm joined by a couple of my colleagues at National Grid. And I'll pass it over to you guys if you want to do a quick intro before we get going.
Hi, everyone. Lori Timmerman with National Grid Community Solutions. And I am going to also introduce Gemma because she's having a little trouble with Zoom and will be on momentarily. She's on our team, new to our team, and we're looking forward to presenting all of these great MassSave programs to you. Thanks.
Thanks, Lori. All right, we can get started then. All right, so again, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining. This training today is going to go over MassSave municipal programs and incentives. You can go to the next slide. This is just an agenda here. We'll go over, like I said, MassSave programs, a little bit introduction to MassSave and what we do, talk about some challenges in the field, utility contracted vendors, given some studies, project scenarios, and then at the end, there's an appendix at the end of the training that goes over details of the offers. The goal of the training today is really just to kind of give you an understanding of how to utilize MassSave programs. I think we could easily give you a list of offers of incentives and financial support and things that we do, but I think it's a little bit more important for you to understand how to utilize those things, maybe what pathways to take and what you might do in different types of scenarios. So, we're going to start off by kind of giving you an idea of what those things might look like. And then you'll have reference to, some of the specifics later on for future use. If you can go to the next slide. So I think at this point, you'll kind of know who MassSave is. It's your local electric and natural gas utilities and energy efficiency service providers, made up of a bunch of different utilities. Here today is Eversource and National Grid. And can you just go back? Sorry. I think you guys, like I said, obviously understand that the bottom line of what we're here to do is really to help our customers save money and energy. And obviously, as energy managers, that's what you guys are trying to do for your municipalities. So we're really, have the same goals here. We want to help you get there. So now we'll go to the next slide. And this is just a quick overview of kind of ways to utilize MassSave. And I separate it into kind of three specific things: technical support, financial support, and process support. So we're going to go over a lot of these things today, but technical support looks like things like engineering services. We've got trusted technical assistance vendors that can help you, to find opportunities and quantify savings and things like that. We have the external vendors as well as we have internal engineers that are here to help us to, review projects and savings and make sure that everything's kind of on the right track. And with technical support, we include studies in there, which we're going to learn more about today. Financial support looks like things like rebates and incentives, and those are for, those can be rebates for prescriptive projects and specific things that you're doing, or custom incentives based on the savings that your projects are going to gain. And things like study costs also. So there are some studies that are covered at 100%, some that have cost share, but either way, we're, financially supporting our customers with those studies. And then obviously our municipal energy manager funding. As you know, that's kind of where we're all here today. And then there's process support. So your utility contacts that you've met at the orientation or people that are going to be here today, those are the people that are there to support you and help you work your way through our systems and, navigate our programs, figure out what offers, incentives we have, help you to, get your applications in and make sure that you're utilizing our programs in the best way. And I think, like I said, this training is to really go over what those offers and support things are, but also really to kind of show you, like, we are here to support you no matter what. Like, these are going to be different scenarios, and we're always going to be there to kind of walk you through those things. And if you can go to the next slide, you've seen probably these slides before, but just a quick overview of who the teams are at Eversource and National Grid. So first up is Eversource. You could take a look here. Just Karen and I at the top. So Karen's our manager and I'm the supervisor. And we've got Jen, Nick, Sarah, and Emmy, who are our energy efficiency consultants. You should know who your contact is at this point, but if not, just take a look here to see. You can kind of, it shows the territories that they cover. We also have a list of, those things. So just make sure that you are taking note of who those people are. And on the top right, you can also see we've got some account executives that you'd be working with as well. And on the next slide is the National Grid team. We've got a lot of people here as well. We've got Marianne, who manages the team, Tom, Amanda, Sean, Mike, another Sean, Lori, and Gemma, who are on here with me today. So again, take note of this and make sure that you have your contacts at your utility, because we are the people that are really going to help you to navigate these things. This training is one of the steps to do that, and we hope you get a good understanding, but we're going to be people that you have questions to go to and make sure that we're helping you through it. And now I'm going to pass it over to Lori.
Lori,
Lori,
Jem, I think you're on now, right?
Yes. Hi.
Okay,
How are y'all?
excellent.
My name is Gemma. I work with Lori in Community Solutions. And if you want to go to the next slide, I don't have, oh yes, beautiful. So we just want to talk about some of the tools that MassSave has available to you to get started, right? What are the things you want to achieve, and what are the tools we have to be able to do that? So I think many of you have heard about the plans that the planning tools that MassSave offers. There's a portfolio prioritization plan, which is a bit broader, trying to give you a overall sense of what buildings to target first. And then there's a comprehensive building assessment that is much more targeted in a building, looking at energy efficiency measures and pathways to electrification. And if you want to go to the next one. So we talk to municipal folks all day long, and we know, some of the things that you all run into. Some of the things we hear about are deferred maintenance, kind of knowing where to get started, navigating government hurdles, both, at municipal, state, and federal level, finding champions, right? Finding people who really want to move these projects forward, knowledge to run the latest technology, so being able to train up your staff, and then maybe number one, finding money to make these projects happen. So we were thinking of, right, what would be the easiest way to try and get in your shoes and talk about some of the tools we have available. So we kind of put together some little scenarios and then what are ways to start to think about how to approach that. So the first scenario is imagine you were implementing like a $50,000 lighting project and you're needing to talk to your procurement officer about what the process is. And your procurement officer is saying things like, go out to bid. And we want to offer you some tools to have that conversation. So what are utility contracted vendors? It's a program offered by both Eversource and National Grid. Where vendors are authorized by your utility to coordinate and implement energy savings and decarbonization programs. We call them different things at each utility. So National Grid calls them project expediters. Eversource calls them utility contracted vendors. And then there's also a charging station installer list that falls under this as well. So there's a tool that references these vendors in Mass State Law, Chapter 25A, Section 14. And it basically allows you to work with utility contracted vendors for a project under $300,000. And that's typically considered to be per building, per year, per measure, directly without further solicitation. So if you can go to the next slide, I'll just give you a little look at what that looks like. So this is what it looks like. It's Chapter 25A, Section 14. I would write that down because you're going to want to Google it pretty often. And if you don't mind clicking one more. These are some of the measures, some of the things that you can do under this law using a project expediter. But just note that it doesn't include any new fossil fuel projects, even if those are energy efficiency projects. And you're going to want to show this to your procurement officer. Jess, you can click that one more time. Yes, share this with your community's procurement officer in those conversations. It's a tool for you. So there are a lot of benefits of working with a utility contracted vendor in particular, rather than going through more traditional processes. First of all, procurement is painful. There's a lot of steps. So this gives you a lot faster of a pathway to connecting with a vendor. Utility vendors know the process for getting incentives, so they're really well versed and they can kind of help you streamline that. And they're also vetted and part of the MassSave ecosystem, so there's a little bit of additional accountability there. And it also allows you to be flexible and build relationships with vendors. You can still get multiple quotes, but you can also build a relationship and continue go back to the same vendor. For example, you like them for heat pumps, you're going to go back to them another time for heat pumps.
Thanks, Gemma. I'm going to take over from here for a few minutes. So I just wanted to go through another scenario that we know you all are facing or are going to face. So you're going to hear the facilities directors that you're working with talk about your building's HVAC system, whether that be rooftop units, chillers, or boilers, are close to the end of life. So what do you do then? So what we wanted to talk through was a couple of scenarios within that scenario and possibly steps you might want to take. So scenario one, failing boiler at the fire station, and there's some desire to replace that with heat pumps. What we're seeing often is most fire stations in the Commonwealth, the situation is such that a project expediter, we call them PEXs, at National Grid, can give you a quote for that project. It won't necessarily require design work. It won't necessarily require a comprehensive building assessment, and you can move forward with funding you might have available or going after funding from green communities, for example. Scenario two is a large K through 12 school has an HVAC system that's expected to be end of life in the next 3 years or so. That's a really good candidate for you to go and get a comprehensive building assessment. It's going to give you an understanding not only of the energy conservation measures for the rest of the building, but for the HVAC system, it's going to give you 2 or 3 or 4 scenarios that would be possible for you to implement as ways of decarbonizing the building. So it could include partial as well as full electrification of the infrastructure. And Not required, I wanted to state about the CBA if engineering design has already been planned or implemented. So some of you are walking into situations where you already have plans. You know, it could be someone had already started a project and it's something that you're going to have to potentially take the baton and run with it. So if you have engineering design, you don't need to already to go back and get that comprehensive building assessment. That a lot of people for MSBA projects, you're going to be hearing that, for example. So this is an example where we have various tools in the toolbox that can help you, whether it be a project expediter coming out or getting a comprehensive building assessment can address kind of what are those first stepping stones you may want to take towards this failing equipment or soon to be failing equipment. Next slide, please. So the next scenario that we came up with, and we all tasked you with this, right, is you're just getting started and you need to build a project pipeline. So we put this in here because we know a lot of you are like, do I need to have vendor visits? Do I need to have a PPP? Do I need to have a CBA? And the answer is really, it depends. It somewhat depends on who you all are finding as your stakeholder partners. Are there owners, project managers in your community that you can refer to that can help you with existing projects to figure out, like, have things been scoped? The facilities director is a great resource. If you don't have visibility into what's going on in the community at all after talking to these people and you want to get more visibility onto which buildings to prioritize, the portfolio prioritization plan is a great place to start. It's going to give you really high level vision of what's going on in every building, so that you know kind of what are your heavy users and which of the buildings have end of life equipment, and it's going to help you by prioritizing. Like the first bucket is going to be those are the places where you might want to do a comprehensive building assessment, or if you know that the equipment in that building is kind of in critical need, have a vendor come out to visit. And then you'll have possibly a second and a third bucket of buildings that the portfolio prioritization plan is going to recommend be looked at. But it's nice to know these are like my top 3 or 4 buildings, versus maybe you are walking into a community where you already have that visibility into the highest need buildings and you just need to dive into what is this possibly going to cost so that I can start to match the projects in this building to a grant that might be a good fit. In that case, a comprehensive building assessment is a really good next step. So we wanted to put this out there because you were asked to build a project pipeline, and I think these are really great resources that can help you do that. They're new this year as part of the 3-year plan, and the portfolio prioritization plan and comprehensive building assessment are no match studies, meaning the MassSave program is going to pay to fund the vendors who are coming out to see you and visit these facilities. Next slide, please. Learning check. So, Julia, do you want me to take them through the learning check, or are you going to? Okay, so a comprehensive building assessment, a CBA, is required before starting any energy efficiency project. Is that a true or a false? Give it another 30 seconds.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think we've got good response here. So most of you responded false, which is the correct answer. So a comprehensive building assessment is not required before starting an energy efficiency project. If you know from your facilities folks that you're working with that you have an identified project that has high need, you can have a vendor come out and do a construction audit for you. So when I said comprehensive building assessment, I'm thinking more the study that we supply. You still can get construction audits and do great work without that. And I don't want to imply that you have to have it, but it is a great tool when you get to your planning stages.
So next slide, please. Okay, I'm going to pass to Jess, I think.
Awesome. So I think we all know that electrification is obviously something that's really important and it's a goal for many of us. But getting electrification ready is one of the most important steps towards making this happen. This means really kind of preparing your building to use these really efficient systems by making sure the building itself is efficient and cost effective. So by improving things like you see on this list, you're gonna, reduce your energy waste, right size your future electric equipment, avoid overspending and oversized systems. And preparing really kind of ensures that once you do electrify, everything is running efficiently, you're maintaining comfort, you're delivering, all of the benefits of electrification by making sure that the building is ready first. Electrifying the building is going to magnify the strengths and weaknesses of it. So we want to make sure that there's as many strengths as possible. So this is just a list of offers and things that we do support. So you want to take a quick look here, and I'm going to go into a little bit of a scenario. So we've got weatherization, ventilation, controls, hydronics, VFDs, transformers, compressed air, lighting control. So you really want to get an understanding of what's going on in your building and make sure you're getting everything to the right place before you electrify. If you go to the next slide, I just get into a little scenario. It's actually something that I've dealt with in the past. So, your town hall wants to get off oil and fully electrify. It's a very old, probably 1950s brick, got maybe 2 oil-fired boilers, manual thermostats, no controls, no insulation in the attic, your bills are high, people are complaining, it's too hot upstairs, it's too cold downstairs. There's a lot going on here. And you want to electrify this building in the future, but if you're just gonna, put some heat pumps on that building, that there are things that are gonna be running smoothly, right? So obviously, we have our studies and we have different pathways to get ready for electrification, but there are a couple of things that I want to point out that are really important to really get done in your buildings first. So I've got 2 things listed here. So we've got weatherization, right? So we want to minimize heat loss and gain. It improves comfort. In this scenario, right, there's no no insulation in the attic. You're going to want to do some insulation there, do some weather stripping, take a look at all the different ways that you can, keep that heat in or out. We also, I'm going to get into some of the things that we offer for those things, but that's one of the first things you want to do before electrifying. And then also, very importantly, building management systems. So your BMS systems in the buildings. This specific example had no controls in the building, right? Manual thermostats. So you've got some people putting the thermostats up high, some people are putting their thermostats up down low. We want to make sure that with, a BMS system that you're able to control the new heat pumps that you have and make sure they're running efficiently and smoothly, and making sure that the, controls efficiency and demand. I also put in here, EBCX, that we have, which I'm going to get into a little bit before. So if you do have an existing BMS system already, we can go in there and make sure we fine tune it and get some savings off of that. So I think we've all probably seen a scenario like this, and I think it's a good example of things that you want to make sure you're doing beforehand, when you want to go electrify your building. And then the next slide just gets a little bit more into what the offers are. I've mentioned this before, but there's an appendix at the end of the slide. It will be a reference to everybody here, and it will outline the different offers, incentives, and rebates that we offer for everything that we're going over. Some things, like I said, are more on a custom basis and have to do with the actual savings you're going to get, while others are prescriptive. And like I mentioned before, existing building commissioning, the EBCX, so incentives for optimizing performance of your existing building systems. So just take a quick look at this and get an understanding here of some of the offers that we have. And like I said, there will be reference to that later on. And that's my slides for now. I think moving back over to Lori.
Okay. So we've talked through some of these ways that we can help you with overcoming your challenges. Incentive funding obviously is available to you for all of your energy conservation measures. As Jessica mentioned, there are details in the appendix as to certain criteria and thresholds for certain measure areas, and your energy efficiency representatives that we covered in the first few slides can take you through the requirements for each one of those measures when it's time to actually get prepared and actually submit your applications for those projects. as you all know, who are municipal energy managers currently on this call, we have the schools initiative funding for funding the managers in 63 communities across the Commonwealth. So that's another way that we're hoping to help out. Another way that a lot of people are helped is through our electrification engineers. We're going to be getting some great help from them, and the training that's going to be coming in December, where we're going to really be doing a deep dive into decarbonization. It's a great place for you to meet those folks, but also just be aware that they're here to answer your questions as you get ready to electrify your facilities. Even if you're early on planning and you haven't even gotten to like schematic design of changing things out, they're a great resource to bounce things off of, to see whether the possible pathways that you're taking make sense, not only from kind of how you're going to design the system and it's going to run and the technologies and how they work together, but also through what's the best way to maximize the incentives that you could receive, as well as kind of your forward-looking operating cost perspective for the designs that you're considering. So a lot goes into that equation of figuring out how to electrify a building, and we are going to be diving into that into a later session that comes in December. Gemma mentioned the project expediters. That's a great way for you to take advantage of the fact that if you use a utility representative, one of our vendors, you don't necessarily have to go out to bid for those projects, and they're available for you to use on anything except for fossil fuel powered heating systems. Obviously, that isn't one of the places where you're going to be able to take advantage of Chapter 25A. I think the state wants you to still go out to bid on those projects if you have to do them, and we can't incentivize them anymore. And then MassSave incentives for training. I love putting this one on here. Our building operator certification training, BOC, some people refer to it as, is available now. The level 1 training provides MassSave incentives to cover the full program, as well as the test. So really great opportunity for your facilities directors and teams, and possibly yourself, to get some additional training on how the systems work in the facilities that you are responsible for. Next slide, please. So tips for working with us. So know your energy efficiency representative. I know some of them are on the call. Some of you have already met your rep. We will be setting up meetings for the municipal energy managers in the coming month or so that we're all going to meet regularly and have conversations, but get to know those folks. They're a great pathway for you, and can explain the programming in depth for any projects you're considering. Encourage you to engage with us early. So if you're thinking of going after a Green Communities grant next April, start looking at it now. It's actually really good timing to look at something 6 months before the grant is due, because it allows you to build out a complete list of shovel-ready projects. And then you can kind of do a comparison of where the highest need is compared to which projects are, kind of good candidates for that particular grant. We encourage you to plan 2 to 3 years in advance of end of life for any HVAC. I've had one community come to me on the coldest day in January 2 years ago and say, my boilers, not just one, but both boilers had failed. Like, we don't want to be in that situation where it's the coldest day of the year, because there's no way to quickly turn around a replacement that's a decarbonized solution. So by planning out for that equipment failing, you have a better chance of designing for the decarbonized solution you want, but also finding grant funding to cover it. And then, like we've been saying through this whole deck, and I think every time we talk to you, is figure out which buildings you want to target for comprehensive building assessments and let us know, so that we can get you on a cycle of having those studies available to you at a regular basis. Okay, so that's kind of my main message here, is if there's a building upgrade planned, we probably can help you in some way, and we will help you find grant matches for funding those projects too. So reach out, please. Next slide, please. Another learning check. At what point in your journey should you engage with your utility partner? A, as early as possible. B, after finding a vendor, or C, once the project is complete. Okay, I think we know everyone is paying attention. 100% of you answered as early as possible. Yay! So that's great. So last slide that I have before we can go into an open Q&A. So wanted to put this in here. I know Julia's got a great grant funding site, but I try to mention these whenever I can. The places where you can go to get funding are really rich in the state. It's been a little more difficult for people who are going after funding that are federal right now. So we've kind of shifted to encouraging all of you to take advantage of those great resources that we have in the Commonwealth. So obviously a lot of you already are doing green communities and accessing the competitive grants, as well as some of you are becoming climate leaders. That's a great source. Transforming in Energy in Schools initiative, also being referred to as TESI. That's a DOER program that's just come out. It's for targeting schools that have more than 40% low income populations, and it's really meant for folks who are trying to fully decarbonize the facilities. That grant is due on December 5th. So really short turnaround on that one, but I know some of you are going after that. Reach out if you have any questions. There's also, excuse me, the Massachusetts Clean Energy Center. Some of you may not know that's referred to as the Mass CEC. So if you hear that, that's what they're talking about. They have a Green School Works program that already funded 18 schools in the state for this past summer for doing decarbonization projects. They're expecting to reopen that grant cycle shortly, and I believe there's going to be another $19 million in funding available with that program. And lastly, on the slide, the Massachusetts School Building Authority, they have a heat pump accelerated repair program that came out, I believe, in March, and folks are going to be hearing about that soon, hopefully, I think on Friday. That program is expected to come out again in the springtime of 2027. So in your work that you're doing, if you're finding projects that would be good candidates for decarbonization and boiler, rooftop unit and chiller repairs, that program is something actually that would be really great to plan for, because I think you could probably in that time frame pull off a really good story if you had a comprehensive building assessment and did some of the upfront work to be eligible for that. It doesn't require the comprehensive building assessment, but I think it would be a really good step for you to take if you are interested in the MSBA program, so that you kind of can see what your good candidate schools to put forward for that. With that, let's go to the next slide.
And I'm just going to gently plug, you mentioned our grants matrix, and I just wanted to mention again,
Yeah.
that's available on our website, includes these grant opportunities and more. So make sure if you want to throw that in the chat too.
Yes,
To take a look at that. It's we built it from the Building Electrification Accelerators grants matrix, and there's a tab for municipalities, there's a tab for nonprofits. So that's always available to you. Thanks, Lori.
yes, definitely. Okay, last learning check. How can MassSave programs help you? A, technical services. B, rebates and incentives. C, support navigating program offers and applications, or all of the above.
Take 10 more seconds. All right.
Okay, so most of you got this. All of the above is available. So thanks everyone for taking that last learning check. I want to just make sure that we're at the end. Yes, so we're at the end of the program, the formal program. This section here has details about every single one of the possible places that you could do some deep work in your buildings. I'm not going to run through this unless someone has a question that they want to ask, and I need to reference it. I also have one of our energy efficiency reps as well as one of our electrification engineers on the line in case we have a question for them. So saving this part for you to go through on your own in your spare time, so that we have the time to actually answer questions that people might have in the audience. And I'm glad to refer to these if the question is relevant. We can definitely jump back onto the particular slide that matters. So with that, are there any questions? I don't think there were any in the chat, right? No.
There's one in the chat. There's one in the chat.
Okay, let me go to the chat again.
Am I echoing?
Can you read it to me? Because I'm not seeing it.
It's in the Q&A section. Dan, I can read it. Chapter 25A, Section 14 includes the following: electrical or mechanical furnace ignition systems. Within this wording include fossil fuel equipment.
So we have been told that you it doesn't apply. I'm gonna yield to that question. We will ask our friends at DOER to give us further clarification, the Green Communities folks to give us further clarification on that one. I would say if you have a situation such as the example you gave, I would definitely check with your regional coordinator before you make assumptions about whether you can use a utility sponsored vendor or whether you need to go out to bid. So
hey, Lori, it's Sean McGlowan. My experience is
yeah.
no, they cannot use 25A for gas or propane fired equipment.
Okay, thanks for jumping on, Sean.
Sure.
Yeah, any more?
Hey, this is Karen. I just was wondering, I was looking on the MESM Academy page. Can you guys show me, and maybe this is more for Julia, where the resources like this slide deck afterwards would be found on there? Because I think it's a great resource.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure we could point people to it.
For sure. Let me pull that up for you. And we have a few that are already posted, so that
Okay.
I can share with you where that lives. Let me screen share one more time. So here is the main, can you see my screen? Okay, looks like it's sharing.
Yes. Yep.
This is our kind of main project website. And then if you go under training curriculum and resources, here is our training curriculum. So when you click through, you can see all of the lesson questions, learning objectives that we screen share at every at the start of each meeting. So if you go here, lesson slides are available. And if we recorded the training, which we have been for most of them, like for example, the MEI training, you'll see both the slides and the recording available. So this is where these resources live. For example, the energy managers reporting training that we did last month, or was it earlier this month? The recording lives here, the slides, and all of the additional resources that were shared is available on this website. And just because we mentioned the grants matrix, we also have this additional support services website where you can download the onboarding package. Here is the grants matrix, the contact spreadsheet, etc. Thanks for that question.
Hey, great question. I see in the Q&A that Abby asked to reiterate, was it the MSBA heat pump program that will have a second round summer of 2027? It is MSBA, and I believe this round came out in March. So I'm going to make an assumption that it's planned for late winter, early spring for when they're going to come out with that again. But I think we'll be learning a lot. They did a really nice job leading up to this round of trying to get in front of folks at conferences. So when we hear that they're planning for a round, we will likely invite them on here to talk about it and what they expect the requirements to be for participating in that program, so that we'll we'll make sure that there's training available to all of you. But we've been told it's 2 years out. So yeah. Any other questions? I'm not seeing anything else in the Q&A.
There's one more from Tim in the chat. Can you share more about the building operator certification, including how much time it requires?
So I'm not going to get into how much time it requires because I'm afraid I'm going to misspeak. It is a virtual training. It's available now as a virtual training, whereas previously it was in person. So that has made it possible for a lot more people to participate. And I don't know whether it's 1 day a week for, at night for 12 weeks. I don't know the details. That's usually how a lot of those trainings go. It's like an amount of time over a period of time. What we'll do is we'll find out the latest offering from the building operator certification folks, provide that to Julia and Shannon so it can get posted on our various sites and you have access to it so you can dig in a little further. So, anything else? Okay, so with that, I want to advertise when the next training is, Julia. If you don't mind sharing the screen, that would be great.
I'm actually wondering if, before we get to next steps, if I can ask a question of the group, have folks gone through the MassSave, these like technical services before, and are you willing to share your experience? Like, what did you learn? How did that process go?
So for Bach in particular, it's likely facilities managers who go to that one and their teams. So I'm not sure if we have any of those on here. It's not that it's not open to everybody, but that's usually who we see attending them. The people who actually operate the equipment.
Or I'm asking too if anyone has done the like a project portfolio prioritization exercise or the CVA and how those experiences.
Oh, okay.
Folks unmute, so feel free to jump in.
So I'll jump in and say I think we've got about 4 of them going that are starting in the National Grid territory. So I'm guessing that those 4 people aren't on this call. So, but maybe we have one of them come and speak to all of us. Would that be helpful, Julia? I don't want to make any assumptions. I don't think any of them are on here. So it just started this year. So.
Oh, I haven't done any of the studies, but I did work pretty closely with my representative for the Green Communities Grant to get some incentives, and it was a really great process. They were super helpful, and I went through, there were like 2 different groups because we had like a building automation component and a heat pump component. So it was a great experience. Everyone was very responsive, and I feel like I could go in without knowing too much, and people were able to kind of guide me to where I needed to go.
That's great. Thanks, Rebecca. Appreciate you sharing that experience.
Julia, we have had people do the comprehensive building assessments that are on here. I don't know if any of them are willing to share, just not the portfolio prioritization plan.
Well, I think when I'm Dilly from the city of Lean, basically. So when I came on board, basically, the team here at the city of Lean, which is more like the capitals project unit, is like a subset of what you would consider the facilities department. I think themselves and Laurie, they've actually worked on getting a few CBAs out already, and they actually used that to apply for some grants before I actually started working. And the information that I actually obtained from those CBAs kind of guided how I did some in-house level 1 ASHRAE energy audits, basically. And yes, and I think it's a really very helpful process because I think everything is kind of streamlined. So if you've got questions, obviously you could contact your rep. In my case, it was Laurie, and a couple of meetings have actually been held, kind of like reviewing these CBAs and trying to see how these CBAs actually align with the grants you're trying to apply for. So yeah, so this is really, so it really works. And in terms of the portfolio prioritization plan, wow, I can't pronounce that word today. Anyways, in terms of that, what I think we've done here is basically, in my case, that's in the case of the city of Lean, there are actually on projects that the city, the project managers in the city have actually got on ground already. So, and some of these projects actually have energy facilities incorporated. So effectively, the portfolio prioritization plan that I'm actually going to be working on is going to be in alignment with those projects that the city have got planned already, basically. So that is really the strategy rather that I'm taking to work. So effectively, the project of the city informs how I prioritize the energy projects in general.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Bailey.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Dan and or Simon, I saw both of you unmute at several points. I don't know if you wanted to jump in and add another experience or not to call you guys out. No pressure.
Yeah, no, I was trying to think about what value information I can add. I think that the comprehensive building assessments I value much more than the PEX projects, because when it comes down to operations of a building, taking a holistic approach is pretty critical for just like long-term operations of the building. And I think the CBA, at least the vendors I've worked with, they do a really great job approaching it in a holistic approach. And if you can get a plan for a building down that addresses all the components at once, you effectively have a menu list that you can work from as grants come up. You can pull from this study and execute on projects. So I've found that really, really helpful, and just the value behind the CBA versus just one-off projects that are efficiency based, but they don't really fit into the larger scheme of things. And then there was a question. I think I unmuted for the building operator. So in a previous role, we had tried sending like a building management specialist to go to that certification. Whether he did or not, I don't know, but we saw a lot of value in that because, obviously he's an operator of that building, but being able to not only understand the mechanics of the building, but also the programming and the scheduling that goes behind it. There seemed to be a lot of value behind that. So that was the purpose for his certification.
Awesome. And for myself, I would just say over here, we've definitely had the opportunity, like I myself have had the opportunity to sort of shadow the folks that come out and do the CBAs, and oftentimes that can be really helpful. Just one, for your own knowledge, and then two, when if they have any sort of follow-up questions, just having some sort of familiarities with the folks on site who do facilities operations, seeing sort of where things are that they might be referencing, whether the mechanical rooms, if they come back and ask you for another photo of something, and then ahead of time, just providing them access to the related building's energy data, or utility bills, and then as well as it's been really helpful for some individuals who have done our CBA reports to sort of have, whether photos or just information provided by the BMS systems, so set points, and then obviously plans and diagrams go into that as well. And just providing all that makes it definitely like a seamless process. So getting that out to them as soon as possible if you want like a quicker turnaround time.
Thank you both for sharing those experiences. We have time for maybe one more MassSave related question if anyone's got it. Otherwise, I'll pass over to Samiksha to lead us through our next steps and our evaluation form.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, I just put in the chat our evaluation form link. Please take a few moments to fill that out. It really helps us shape our upcoming training sessions. And for upcoming events on November 3rd, we have a training on grant writing and creating project pipeline with Naomi Mermin and team. Should be great. And then November 19th, we have the Peer Learning Network second session, and it will be around the same theme of grant writing. So we'd love for you to join us. We're also working on finalizing some details for another training session in November, mid-November, which will be about working in a municipal government 101. We'll cover the fundamentals of processes and working in municipal government. So we'd love to see you there as well. That should be in your calendar soon, once we finalize the details. Thank you for joining us.
And please remember to take out to complete the evaluation form. It's only 4 questions, should be very quickly. Take the rest of the time now to fill that out, please.